ancient signals in the void. The asteroid field stretched endlessly through the darkness of space, chunks of rock and ice tumbling slowly in their eternal dance around the dying star of Kepler 442. Captain Zara Voss pressed her weathered hands against the viewport of the mining vessel Frontier's Edge, watching her crew deploy harvesting equipment on the largest asteroid they had found in months. "Readings are strange on this one, Captain," called out Chief Engineer Malik Torres from his station. His dark eyes reflected the concern in his voice as he studied the sensor displays. "The mineral composition is normal, but there's something else underneath. Something big." Zara had been mining these forgotten sectors for 15 years, ever since the Great Expansion began. Humanity had spread far from Earth, but they were still just one species among dozens in the galactic community. They worked hard, kept their heads down, and tried to earn their place among the stars. Most days, that felt like enough. "Define. Big, Malik," she said, moving to look over his shoulder at the readings. "Massive energy signature buried deep in the asteroid's core. It's not natural, Captain. Someone built something and hid it here." Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her research station. Her scientific curiosity immediately sparked. As the team's xenoarchaeologist, she had spent years studying the remnants of ancient civilizations that once flourished in this region. The energy pattern is remarkably stable for something that should be centuries old. Whatever it is, it was built to last. Zara made the decision quickly. In the Outer Rim territories, opportunities like this were rare. "Prep the deep excavation gear. Let's see what secrets this rock is hiding." The work took 6 hours of careful drilling and energy cutting. The asteroid's outer shell fell away in massive chunks, revealing something that made the entire crew fall silent. Nestled within the hollow core was a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. Its hull gleamed with a strange metallic finish that seemed to absorb light, and its design was both elegant and intimidating. "That's a human ship," whispered Torres, his voice filled with wonder and confusion. "But look at the size of it. It's 3 times larger than our biggest military vessels." The ship was enormous, easily stretching 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Weapon ports lined its hull in perfect geometric patterns, and massive engines dominated its rear section. But most mysterious of all was its condition. Despite being buried in an asteroid for what must have been centuries, the ship showed no signs of damage or decay. "This doesn't make sense," Sarah said, running her scanners over the vessel's hull. "According to galactic records, humans only achieved interstellar flight 200 years ago. We were barely capable of building simple colony ships then. This technology is far beyond anything in our current databases." Before anyone could respond, proximity alarms began blaring throughout the Frontier's Edge. Zara rushed to the command station and felt her heart sink as she saw what was approaching. 3 massive warships bearing the crimson markings of the reptilian hegemony were dropping out of hyperspace. "This is Admiral Thexakar of the Hegemony Third Fleet," came the harsh, hissing voice over the communications channel. "You will evacuate this sector immediately. This discovery falls under hegemony jurisdiction as per the Galactic Salvage Accords." Zara's jaw tightened. The hegemony was one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and they had a habit of claiming anything of value they found in the outer territories. "Admiral, this is Captain Voss of the Frontier's Edge. We discovered this site through legal mining operations. The salvage rights belong to us. Your species has no claim to ancient technology beyond your current capabilities." Thexkar replied with barely concealed contempt. "Withdraw now, or face the consequences." The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut. Everyone knew they were outgunned and outnumbered. The 3 hegemony cruisers could destroy their mining vessel without breaking their stride. But something inside Zara rebelled against simply walking away from the greatest discovery of her lifetime. As if responding to the brewing conflict, lights began flickering to life along the ancient ship's hull. Deep within its structure, systems that had slept for centuries suddenly awakened. The Frontier's Edge sensors detected massive power surges cascading through the vessel's dormant networks. "Captain," Torres called out urgently, "it's coming online. Whatever that ship is, it's waking up." The ancient vessel's communication array activated with a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through space itself. When the transmission came through, the voice was artificial yet somehow warm, like a guardian greeting long-lost family. Human vessels, this is Sentinel. Artificial intelligence of the dreadnought Eternal Vigil. I have been waiting for you to return. The bridge fell completely silent. Even the hegemony ships seemed to pause in their approach, clearly as surprised as everyone else by this development. Zara found her voice first. Sentinel, you're human AI? I am the guardian of this vessel and keeper of humanity's true legacy. I have maintained my vigil for 237 years, 4 months, and 12 days. You have returned at precisely the moment I calculated you would. Admiral Thexkar's voice cut through the transmission, filled with disbelief and anger. Impossible. Humans were barely capable of spaceflight when they first appeared in Galactic society. No human civilization could have built technology of this magnitude. Your understanding of human history is incomplete, Admiral, Sentinel replied, with what almost sounded like amusement. Humanity did not emerge into galactic society because they had just achieved spaceflight. They emerged because they chose to reveal themselves. Sarah leaned forward, her scientific mind racing. What do you mean, chose to reveal themselves? Humanity had been observing galactic civilization for over a century before making first contact. Your ancestors were careful, methodical, and above all, patient. They studied every species, every technology, every political structure before deciding how to integrate into galactic society. The revelation hit the human crew like a physical blow. Everything they had been taught about their own history was incomplete, perhaps even deliberately so. Your ancestors faced a choice, Sentinel continued. They could reveal their true capabilities and risk being seen as a threat to be eliminated, or they could present themselves as a younger, less advanced species and gradually earn their place among the stars. They chose wisdom over pride. Admiral Thexkar's ships moved into attack formation around the mining vessel. Enough of this deception. That ship represents ancient technology that belongs to the galactic community, not to any single species. I disagree, Sentinel replied calmly. The ancient dreadnought's weapon systems began powering up, energy signatures that dwarfed anything the hegemony ships could generate. This vessel was built by humans, crewed by humans, and left here specifically for humans to find when the time was right. The time for what? Zara asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer would change everything. The time for humanity to reclaim its rightful place among the stars. The time for the galaxy to learn the truth about what humans are truly capable of, and most importantly, the time for the Great Silence to end. Malik was studying his instruments with growing amazement. Captain, this ship's power output is off the charts. If these readings are accurate, it could match the firepower of an entire battle fleet. My weapons systems are fully operational, Sentinel confirmed, as are my shields, engines, and all defensive capabilities. I have spent over 2 centuries maintaining and upgrading every system aboard this vessel. I am ready to fulfill my purpose. Admiral Thexkar's patience finally snapped. All ships open fire, destroy that ancient relic before it can pose a threat to galactic security. The 3 hegemony cruisers unleashed everything they had. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and energy missiles streaked across space toward the Eternal Vigil. The ancient human ship's shields activated in response, creating a shimmering barrier of energy that absorbed the incoming fire without even flickering. Your weapons are impressive by current galactic standards, Sentinel observed conversationally while enemy fire continued to hammer uselessly against its defenses. But human defensive technology was designed to withstand far more sophisticated attacks. The dreadnought's massive engines ignited for the first time in over 2 centuries, brilliant blue fire that illuminated the entire asteroid field. The ship moved with surprising grace for something so enormous, sliding free from its rocky hiding place like a sleeping giant stretching after a long rest. Sentinel, Zara called out, what are your intentions? To protect humanity and reveal the truth that has been hidden for too long. But first I must deal with those who would threaten human lives. The Eternal Vigil's weapon ports opened like the eyes of some ancient predator. Energy began building within its massive guns, power signatures that made the hegemony ship's weapons look like toys in comparison. Admiral Thexkar's confident voice now carried a note of real fear. "All ships, full retreat. Request immediate reinforcements from Hegemony Central Command." "There will be no retreat," Sentinel replied with finality. "And no reinforcements will arrive in time to matter. You have made the same mistake that others have made throughout galactic history. You have underestimated humanity." The ancient warship fired its first shots in over 2 centuries, beams of coherent energy that cut through space like swords of light. The hegemony ship's shields collapsed instantly, their hulls breached in dozens of places. But rather than destroying them outright, the shots were precisely calculated to disable their engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. A demonstration of capability, not destruction, Sentinel explained as the enemy ships drifted helplessly. Humanity has always preferred mercy to massacre, even when dealing with those who show no such restraint. Torres stared at his readings in amazement. Those were surgical strikes, the precision required to disable 3 ships simultaneously, without killing their crews. It's incredible. "This is only the beginning," Sentinel announced, and suddenly space around the asteroid field filled with new energy signatures, dozens of them, appearing from what seemed like empty space as cloaking systems deactivated. Ships began materializing all around them. Human ships, each one as advanced and impressive as the Eternal Vigil. Battlecruisers, destroyers, and massive dreadnoughts emerged from their hiding places among the asteroids and gas clouds, where they had waited patiently for centuries. "My God," Sarah whispered. "How many are there?" "This battle group consists of 43 vessels," Sentinel replied. "And we are merely one of dozens of such groups positioned throughout the galaxy. Humanity has been preparing for this day for a very long time." Zara felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. Preparing for what day exactly? The day when the galaxy would finally be ready to accept humanity as equals, rather than simply tolerating them as newcomers. The day when the great silence would end and humans would take their rightful place among the stars. "Humanity's hidden legacy, Admiral," Thexkar's voice crackled through the communication channel, no longer commanding but desperate. "This is impossible. Hegemony intelligence has monitored human space for 2 centuries. We would have detected a military buildup of this magnitude." "Your intelligence monitored what humanity allowed you to see," Sentinel replied, with what could only be described as satisfaction. "Your species' arrogance has always been your greatest weakness. You assumed that because humans appeared less advanced, they were actually less capable." The holographic display in the Eternal Vigil's command center flickered to life, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Hundreds of red dots appeared throughout known space, each one representing a hidden human facility or fleet position. For 200 years, humanity has been building, learning, and preparing, Sentinel explained as Zara and her crew were transported aboard the ancient dreadnought. The ship's interior was even more impressive than its exterior, with corridors that seemed to stretch forever and technology that hummed with quiet efficiency. "But why?" Sarah asked as they were led to the main bridge. "Why hide? Why pretend to be less than you were?" "Because humanity learned from the mistakes of others," came a new voice. They turned to see a tall man with silver hair and kind eyes approaching them. He wore a uniform that was clearly human in design but unlike anything they had seen before. "I am Admiral James Harrison, commander of the Hidden Fleet," he said, extending his hand to Zara. "I've been in cryogenic sleep for the past 50 years, waiting for this moment. Sentinel awakened me when you discovered our ship." Malik stared at him in amazement. "You're from the generation that built all this?" "I'm from the generation that made the choice to hide," Harrison corrected. "We studied galactic history extensively before making first contact. Every species that revealed advanced military capabilities too early was either destroyed by coalition forces or forced into servitude. We decided to take a different path. The bridge around them was a masterpiece of human engineering. Holographic displays showed tactical information from across the galaxy, while the ship's weapons and defensive systems operated with smooth, deadly efficiency. Despite being over 2 centuries old, everything functioned perfectly. The Great Silence was our strategy. Harrison continued. We would present ourselves as a developing species, learn everything we could about galactic civilization, and gradually build our true capabilities in secret. When the time was right, we would reveal ourselves as equals, not supplicants. Zara was trying to process the magnitude of what she was learning. How many humans are actually out there? How many of us have been living this lie? The human colonies you know about represent perhaps 10% of our actual population, Sentinel interjected. The rest live in hidden systems, building ships like this one and advancing human technology far beyond what the galaxy believes possible. On the main display, more ships continued to decloak throughout the asteroid field. The hegemony vessels, that had seemed so powerful minutes ago, now looked like toys surrounded by giants. Each human ship was a masterpiece of engineering, incorporating centuries of secret research and development. Admiral Thexkar's flagship was trying to send distress signals, but the human ships were jamming all communications. What do you want? He finally asked, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. Justice, Harrison replied simply. For 2 centuries, the galactic community has treated humanity as second-class citizens. You've restricted our access to advanced technology, limited our territorial expansion, and assumed we were too primitive to deserve real respect. That ends now. The Hegemony Council will never accept this deception, Thexkar snarled. When they learn of your betrayal, they will unite every species in the galaxy against you. They will try, Sentinel agreed, but their success is far from guaranteed. The tactical display shifted to show ship movements throughout the galaxy. Human fleets were emerging from hiding in dozens of star systems, each one revealing the true scope of humanity's secret expansion. The numbers were staggering. We have been patient, Harrison said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of planning. We have watched, learned, and prepared. We know the location of every major military installation, every supply depot, every communication hub. We understand your tactics, your technology, and your weaknesses better than you understand them. Yourselves. Sarah was studying the technical readouts with growing amazement. This technology is incredible. Some of these innovations are decades ahead of anything I've seen in galactic databases. Necessity drives innovation, Sentinel observed. When you must remain hidden while building an interstellar civilization, you learn to solve problems in ways others never consider. Human science advanced rapidly precisely because it had to operate in secret. Torres was examining the ship's engineering systems with professional admiration. The power generation alone must represent a completely new approach to energy production. How did you achieve this level of efficiency? By thinking differently, Harrison explained. The galactic community became comfortable with certain technological paradigms. They stopped pushing boundaries because existing solutions were adequate. Humanity never had that luxury. We had to innovate or risk discovery. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the ship's bridge. New contacts were appearing on the long-range sensors, dozens of them approaching from multiple vectors. Hegemony reinforcements, Sentinel announced calmly. Admiral Thexkar managed to transmit a brief distress signal before we established complete communications jamming. It appears the galactic community is taking our revelations seriously. The approaching fleet was massive. Ships from a dozen different species were converging on their position, representing the largest military force Zara had ever seen assembled. Reptilian hegemony dreadnoughts, crystalline consortium cruisers, and the organic vessels of the collective were all racing toward the asteroid field. Over 300 ships, Torres reported, his voice tight with concern. Even with our technological advantages, those are difficult odds. Are they? Harrison asked with a slight smile. Sentinel, please show our guests the full scope of our preparations. The tactical display expanded to show the entire sector of space around them. What had appeared to be empty void suddenly filled with energy signatures as hundreds of human ships decloaked simultaneously. The secret fleet was enormous, easily matching the approaching galactic forces in numbers while surpassing them in individual ship capability. For 2 centuries we have been preparing for this exact scenario, Harrison explained. Every major human colony has hidden shipyards, Every mining operation has been building military vessels alongside commercial ones. Every scientific expedition has been scouting locations for fleet bases. Admiral Thexkar's voice was barely a whisper when he spoke. You've been planning this from the beginning. Everything. Your entire integration into galactic society was preparation for conquest. Not conquest, Harrison corrected firmly. Recognition. Humanity has never sought to dominate other species. We simply refuse to be dominated ourselves. The approaching Galactic fleet began deploying into battle formations, their various species coordinating with the efficiency of long practice. Despite their technological disadvantages, they still represented a formidable force through sheer numbers and experience. They're forming a standard encirclement pattern, Sentinel observed. Classic galactic military doctrine, predictable, but effective against conventional opponents. Too bad for them that we're far from conventional, Harrison replied. All ships implement Protocol 7. Let's show them what human tactical doctrine looks like. The human fleet moved with precision that seemed almost choreographed. Rather than meeting the enemy formation head-on, they dispersed into smaller groups that began executing complex maneuvers around the galactic forces. It was like watching a dance of deadly grace. They're not engaging directly, Sarah observed, studying the tactical display with fascination. Human military philosophy emphasizes efficiency over brute force, Harrison explained. Why fight a battle you can avoid winning through superior positioning and technology? As if to demonstrate his point, the human ships began targeting specific systems on the enemy vessels. Rather than attempting to destroy them outright, they used precisely calibrated weapons fire to disable engines, communications, and weapons systems. Within minutes, dozens of galactic ships found themselves drifting helplessly in space. Impossible, came an outraged transmission from the Galactic Fleet Commander. How are they achieving such precision at these ranges? Centuries of practice, Sentinel replied conversationally. Also, we've been monitoring your military exercises for decades. We know your standard operating procedures better than most of your own crews do. The battle, if it could even be called that, continued for less than an hour. The galactic forces found themselves systematically outmaneuvered and disabled by opponents who seemed to anticipate their every move. When it was over, nearly the entire enemy fleet was drifting powerless in space, their crews unharmed but completely helpless. This demonstration is complete, Harrison announced over an open channel that reached every ship in the sector. Humanity has revealed itself not as conquerors but as equals who refuse to be treated as inferiors any longer. Zara found her voice finally. What happens now? What happens to the galaxy? That depends on how quickly the galactic community adapts to new realities, Harrison replied. Humanity offers partnership, not subjugation. We want to contribute to galactic civilization as equals, sharing our innovations and learning from others. But we will no longer accept second-class citizenship. The communication channels suddenly filled with confused and frightened voices from the disabled ships. Species that had considered themselves the dominant powers in the galaxy were struggling to understand how completely they had been outmaneuvered. The transition period will be difficult, Sentinel acknowledged. But humanity has learned patience. We can wait for understanding, as long as we are no longer forced to hide who we truly are. Over the following hours, as rescue ships arrived, to assist the disabled vessels, a new chapter in galactic history began to unfold. Humanity had stepped out of the shadows at last, no longer content to be overlooked or underestimated. The galaxy would never be the same. The Eternal Vigil and its sister ships maintained their positions, guardians of a new age where humanity would take its rightful place among the stars. The Great Silence was over, and the galaxy was finally ready to hear what humans had to say. As Zara looked out at the fleet of ships that had emerged from centuries of hiding, she realized that she was witnessing the dawn of a new era. Humanity had played the longest game in galactic history, and now it was time to collect on their patient investment. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter as the truth was finally revealed. Humanity had never been the junior species. They had pretended to be. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to remind the galaxy that underestimating humans was always a mistake. Continue the story? The galaxy awaits humanity's next move.